New Zealand is living a lie. On paper, the country looks incredibly wealthy. Property values have tripled since the turn of the millennium, creating a class of new millionaires who believe they are winning the economic game. But this wealth is a trap. It's an illusion that is now actively cannibalizing the real economy. The nation has become richer in assets, but poorer in cash, capability, and future prospects. The result is a paradox that defies logic. The more expensive the houses become, the poorer the average citizen actually is. This isn't just a housing crisis. It is a structural disaster that is dismantling the country from the inside out. To understand the mechanics of this trap, you have to look at the paycheck of the average worker. Between 2018 and 2025, the narrative was that wages were rising, and technically, they were. Cumulative wage growth across the economy reached 22.4%. In a normal environment, that would be a sign of prosperity. But this wasn't a normal environment. During that same 7-year period, cumulative inflation hit 28.5%. The math here is brutal. The average worker didn't get a raise. They took a 6.1% pay cut in real terms. The erosion of purchasing power happened exactly when housing costs detached from reality. The national median house price sits at roughly 770,000 New Zealand dollars. In Auckland, it hovers near $1 million, but the raw numbers hide the true scale of the distortion. The crucial metric is the price-to-income ratio. In a healthy market, a house costs 3 times the median annual household income. In New Zealand nationally, that ratio is 9.5. In Auckland, it is 17.2. This is defined globally as severely and chronically unaffordable. This disconnect created a distinct economic segregation. Capital flowed overwhelmingly into residential property because that's where the returns were. Banks were eager to lend against rising asset values but hesitant to lend to small businesses or startups. This starved the productive sector of investment while inflating the asset bubble. For the working population, the consequences were immediate and painful. A worker earning the average wage today has significantly less buying power than they did a decade ago. Yet the entry price for security, a home, has moved permanently out of reach. Even with recent market corrections where prices dipped, the fundamental affordability has not returned. Real inflation-adjusted dwelling values have only retreated to 2019 levels, which were already historically high. The squeeze is not uniform. While private sector wages showed some resilience, public sector workers have been crushed. The gap between what people earn and what it costs to survive has widened fastest for the very people tasked with maintaining the country's services, setting the stage for a broader societal breakdown. The trap is self-reinforcing. Because housing is the only reliable vehicle for wealth preservation, everyone is forced to participate in the market, driving prices up further. This diverts money away from consumption and business investment. You end up with a population that is house poor, carrying massive debt burdens to pay for assets that don't generate income, while their real wages slowly dissolve under the weight of inflation. The economy isn't growing, it's just getting more expensive. This stagnation is most visible where it is most dangerous, the public sector. While the broader economy is struggling with the math of inflation versus income, the machinery of the state is actively breaking down under the pressure. The people responsible for teaching the next generation, caring for the sick, and maintaining essential infrastructure are facing a financial crisis that is statistically worse than the private sector's downturn. The data from 2025 paints a grim picture of this decline. Wage growth in the public service sector has collapsed to just 1.2% annually. This is the lowest result recorded since comparable records began. When you hold that 1.2% raise against an inflation rate of 2.4%, the result is not just stagnation. It is a guaranteed reduction in a standard of living. Every year they stay in the job, they effectively earn less money. This creates a severe distortion within the workforce. While the private sector has managed to keep wage growth slightly higher, though still struggling to match inflation, the public sector is being hollowed out. The only exception to this rule is the health sector, which saw cumulative wage growth of nearly 39% since 2018. But this wasn't a proactive investment by the government. It was a desperation move. The money only appeared because the healthcare system was on the brink of a total collapse due to staffing shortages. It proves the rule. Unless a sector is literally falling apart, The government cannot or will not pay its workers enough to keep up with the cost of living. The consequences of this wage suppression are visible in the degradation of daily life. When central government wages grow at nearly half the rate of inflation, experienced civil servants quit. They take their institutional knowledge, their efficiency, and their competence with them. What remains is a workforce that is either too inexperienced to leave or too close to retirement to care. This is why infrastructure projects stall, why hospital wait times explode, and why the basic functions of the state seem to be getting slower and more expensive simultaneously. The government is trying to balance its books by underpaying its own workforce, but the real cost is being paid by the public in the form of crumbling services. The gap between the cost of survival and the compensation for work has created a new class of working poor within the middle class. These aren't people on the fringes of the economy, they are its backbone. And when the backbone realizes that working harder doesn't result in getting ahead, they stop looking for a second job to make ends meet. They start looking for a ticket out. This realization has triggered the largest exodus of talent in modern New Zealand history. The country is currently experiencing a demographic hemorrhage that threatens to permanently cripple its economic future. In the year ending December 2024, New Zealand suffered a net migration loss of 30,000 people to Australia alone. But the raw number, while staggering, isn't the most terrifying part of the data. The real disaster lies in who's leaving. This isn't a case of recent graduates going on a gap year to 10 bars in London. This is a departure of mid-career professionals, people with 10 to 20 years of experience in law, accounting, engineering, and financial services. These are the people who have already been trained, who have already made their rookie mistakes, and who are now at the peak of their productivity. They are leaving because the economic calculus has become impossible to ignore. Australia offers a larger economy, a lower cost of living relative to income, and significantly higher salaries for the same work. A senior accountant or structural engineer can move across the Tasman and instantly see a 30 to 40% jump in disposable income. When you combine that with New Zealand's housing affordability crisis, the decision to leave stops being a choice and becomes a financial necessity. The statistics confirm this targeted drain. Of the 18,000 New Zealand citizens who immigrated to OECD countries in 2023, 75% went to Australia. The flow is so one-sided that New Zealand is effectively functioning as a nursery for the Australian workforce. The New Zealand taxpayer subsidizes the education, healthcare, and training of these professionals for decades, only for the Australian economy to harvest the return on that investment the moment they become profitable. This creates a vacuum at the management and mentorship level in New Zealand. When the senior staff leave, there's nobody left to train the juniors. The transfer of skills breaks down. Productivity drops further, which suppresses wages even more, creating a feedback loop that pushes more people to the exit. In the 12 months to September 2025, over 72,000 New Zealand citizens departed the country. That is a level of abandonment not seen since the depths of the global financial crisis. The government has attempted to plug these gaps by importing labor, removing wage thresholds for work visas, and lowering experience requirements. But replacing a senior engineer with 20 years of local experience with a new migrant who has 2 years of overseas experience is not a one-to-one trade. The headcount might look the same on a spreadsheet, but the capability of the workforce has been degraded. The country is trading high-skill, high-productivity citizens for lower-skill, transient labor, all while the housing market continues to devour whatever capital remains in the system. For those who stay, the financial trap is about to snap shut. While the Reserve Bank has cut the official cash rate to 2.25%, this relief is largely theoretical for many homeowners. Thousands of households are rolling off fixed-term mortgages secured during the pandemic lows of 3%. They are resetting into rates that, despite recent cuts, effectively double their interest cost. This is the final blow, a mortgage shock that drains the last disposable income from the middle class. The housing wealth that was supposed to make them rich is now the anchor dragging them under. To learn more about another Commonwealth country facing its own economic challenges, click on the video on the screen.